Hello again. It's me. BDL Season 3 has started. I already reviewed my team, and I had my match yesterday. I was very happy with how I did. How did I do? I don't know yet. But I'm very happy with the team I built. I'm very happy with how the match went. And I'm very happy to have a look through it. So, I have a few spreads. This actually isn't the one I use on sports. I changed it to be, that. So I had fast, taunt, rocks Mew, 300 tout speed, adamant Zard, and I believe, I had to be 300 because it goes down to 298. So I had fast taunt for Zard for Feeny. I had rocks just because with Mega Zard, rocks is such an important thing to keep in mind, and being able to taunt Feeny a lot was very important for me. I had Roost because recovery is always great, and then I had Psychic because there was a possibility he brought in DD, and just firing off Psychics with the EVs I had left for special attack would have been really good. Well, it was really good. I have Boot Zapdos. This is definitely just a, oh no, I let Charizard get to +2 sort of thing. There are situations where I liked Zapdos a lot versus Zard. Zard was definitely my biggest issue, even with the checks I have. Because I thought that in my head when I was thinking of scenarios, I forgot about Roost. So you'll see in the match I have a 1v1 with Sylveon and Zard, and if he clicks Roost, it becomes a lot more difficult for me. Because after he clicks Roost, I then have to send Zapdos in and then sack it. Because my main counterplay around Zard was, don't let it stay on high HP, make it Flare Blitz something, and then I can get Talonflame in. Which is Gale Wings with Boots, always comes in on 100%, there was no sand or anything to speak of, and then I just click Brave Bird and kill it. I have Roar just in case I want to actually phase it, instead of just hurting it. I have Roost because Roost is good, Heat Wave for Tangrowth, and Thunderbolt just as a good stab, also to hit Feeny. I have Pex. Despite Misty Train being up, I really like Toxic because it won't be up forever. Haze, another sort of later option if I let it get set up too much. Full defensive because for some reason Pex can live a +2 Earthquake. Luckily because Tough Claws does not affect Earthquake. Recover Schooled, very, basic. One of my favourite sets this week is definitely my Drudgegon set. It's mixed AV with Mold Breaker. A Mold Breaker EQ's hitting Rotom. AV is like me 1v1 Tapu Fini. Heat Wave is 2-HOing Fizz Def Tangrowth, which I thought he'd possibly consider, but maybe not. I mean, that was just a sort of, I didn't know what to put last move, and I didn't care much for EVs. I was brave because I wasn't going to outspeed anything, and I want to keep as much bulk as possible. Rock Tomb was great to click on a potentially non-Megad Zard, and if Zard was Megad, I could always click Earthquake. And this was honestly one of my big players in the match, and I'm very glad I brought this exact set. I think all the moves, apart from Heat Wave, which you'll see, just went off. I think this set was great. Then I have Talonflame, SD just in case I can possibly force a switch with Charizard, but most of the time I want to click Brave Bird on that anyway. Flare Blitz, just dual stab, and then Roost in case I need to heal up again to check Zard again. And then finally, Sylveon, Wish Protect so I can Wish Pass to Drudgegon, Hyper Voice for stab, and Mystical Fire. I don't really know why I put Mystical Fire on it. It definitely helped in chipping Steelix that could have come in, if he had brought his Steelix, but it wasn't exactly necessary, and I think I probably would have preferred Heal Bell, but it didn't actually come into effect much in the match. With that being said, as you go to the match, you see he brought Zard, he brought Rotom, he brought Feeny. I do expect him to bring Crobat as well, possibly as a secondary defogger, possibly just as his primary defogger for more offensive Feeny. I expected Steelix over Toad, but I wasn't exactly unprepared for Toad, because Pex can just eat hits from it. And then Alolan Persian was actually a big issue for me as soon as I saw it. I thought, oh man, Persian is gonna taunt this, taunt this, taunt this, taunt this. It's just gonna go in, do a bunch, and it's gonna really mess up my flow at beating Charizard. So turn 1, he leads Feeny, I lead Mew. I sort of expected either Crobat or Feeny to lead. I didn't really mind a U-turn from Crobat turn 1, because getting Rocks up was always good. And then if Feeny came in to defog them, I could taunt it. And it didn't really lose much, apart from Persian, which I didn't really think he would want to lead, which he definitely could have. Definitely could have led Parting Shot and could have taunted me turn 1. But, you know, he had to anticipate possible, like, a Zapdos lead to catch this, maybe. Some other leads. You know, so I led Mew. He led Feeny. Turn 1 happens, I click Taunt, and he clicks Trick. And that lets me know, obviously, after seeing that he does not get hit by Black Sludge, and he's able to switch moves. I know he's not Trick Choice, I know he's not Trick Black Sludge, I know he's not Trick Toxic Orb, because why would you be Trick Toxic Orb if you are in Misty Terrain? But then he clicks Whirlpool, which is a little annoying, but at the same time, it doesn't actually matter. Because obviously I can just Roost Taunt it forever, I can just switch out to whatever I want whenever I want. And him clicking Whirlpool, instead of clicking Moonblast, sort of tells me that, you know, I feel like it might not have Moonblast. I don't know for certain yet, but it might not have it. So Persian comes in, I click Psychic, just wanting to get Chip. He predicts that, well played. And then this turn, you know, I'm thinking, oh, he might just Parting Shot, but I might as well not risk it. He clicks Knock, and I'm fine to have Pex's Black Sludge knocked off. It never really needs it, because of Regenerator, it's just nice to have. Then I double into Drud, expecting possibly Rotom to come in, because this is my Rotom check. He taunts me, which is perfectly fine, and then I double back into Pex as he clicks Knock again, which I expected. And now that Pex is in, I click Toxic because Missy trains down. He anticipates that, he does Feeny. But I don't lose anything from that because Feeny can't do anything to Pex. Because I know he's Trick, I just go back to Mew. He tricks me in Iron Ball, which I think is definitely an interesting set. I like the idea of making your opponent slower and then getting Whirlpool off. But at the same time, why not just click Whirlpool on a switch? So then he taunts me taunting, because I forgot I had Iron Ball that turn. So then I just switch out, he clicks Whirlpool and Zapdos, and then he switches to Toad, and I just click Roar because I expected Toad to come in. And then this turn I think, okay, he's not going to switch because he'll expect Roar again, so then I click Thunderbolt, which gets me about 50%, he Toxics. It's in range of another Thunderbolt. I should have roared again, but I clicked Thunderbolt just in case, which I think is fine, but Chip on Zapdos is a little annoying. I just go Pex here, Scout is set. I count from that is very offensive, so then I go AV Drud, just because it checks everything. He's Rocks, he then goes Crobat on this, as I double into Sylveon, I think expecting Feeny. I don't actually know why I doubled there, but it works for now. So I just protect, see what it wants to go for. It goes for Super Fang, which tells me it's a more supportive set. It's not Nasty Plot, it's nothing like that. Which means I can go to Mew and just have a U-turn on me. U-turn's really not doing much. Persian comes in, which is annoying. He's going to taunt me as I try to Roost. And you know, this, like, Persian is putting in work right now. He's taunting me on good taunt turns. He's Parting Shotting out. You know, he's not Parting Shot right here, I think. Yeah, he just leaves. He's really messing up momentum. And at any point, he could just get Zard in, which he definitely could have done right there. But he went Toad first, which I understand. I calced Sludge Wave from Life Orb, and I knew that it only did about 40%. So I stayed in on it. I just clicked Wish. Then he switches to Crobat. I just protected just to see what he would do. And then I get to go Pex on this, which could have possibly been an issue. But he decides not to Super Fang either turn. Pardon me. And then he brings Rotom in, I just click Recover just in case he would Super Fang. And then I finally get to bring Drud in on Rotom, which is the big thing I wanted Drud to do this game. And he does about 0% with Thunderbolt. And then I just click Earthquake. Actually, no, I clicked Rock Tomb. I think, yeah, I anticipated Zard or Crobat coming in, because it would have done a lot of chip to either of them. Killed Zard, probably. So I get the Rock Tomb off. I know for a fact that AV is going to live Moonblast, so I just stay in and click Dunk Shot. He didn't even use Moonblast because he didn't have it, which I also realized. Well, I didn't realize it. I just knew I lived a Moonblast, so I stayed in. And then I called it Trapu Fini because I'm a really funny person. Then he just brings Persian in. You know, I can't really do much about him knocking or doing whatever he wants, so I just send Sylveon in. I think it's pretty disposable. I clicked Mystical Fire, possibly anticipating. I don't know. Mystical Fire was definitely a weird click there. If I clicked Hyper Voice, I probably did around like 70-80% to this, which would have been a lot of chip. Then he brings Zard in, and I click Hyper Voice that turn. And this is a situation with Sylveon Zard that I was talking about earlier. My plan in my head when I was prepping was the one he can bring Charizard in on is Sylveon. So I want Sylveon to click Hyper Voice every turn to make it so he can't actually DD up enough to be able to kill my entire team. So he clicks CD, I Hyper Voice, he clicks Flare Blitz, which is good information for me. If he was DD Fire Punch, it would have told me I could definitely go Zapdos here, I believe live a hit, and then be able to roar him out. Getting chip on Zapdos here was really pretty rough for me, and I'm just very glad that he was Flare Blitz. I did still live an Earthquake at +1, but if he roosted here, which he reveals later on, it would have been a very big issue for me. And I honestly could have lost during this interaction. But I didn't know what set he was. I didn't know if he was possibly 3 attacks, so he could hit something like Talonflame, because I could have brought a bulkier Talonflame, you know, stuff like that. So this was possibly a throw, clicking Hyper Voice here, but it worked for me. He gets chipped, I get to bring in Talonflame. I select Brave Bird because I want to. I find out from this calc that he is a little bit of defense and max HP. So then I just switch out, he clicks U-turn, goes back to Zard, he roosts, I anticipate this, I also know that I live an Earthquake, so I just click Toxic, and now Zard just isn't an issue. I click Recover here, because, oh no, I click Scald, which is fine, I have Regenerator anyway, I select Scald for more chip, then I recover this turn because I'd live 2, and then Rotom tricks me as Choice Specs, which is actually kind of useful, because now that I've Toxic Rotom and I've Toxic Charizard, I honestly just want to be clicking Scald every turn, and maybe just spamming Recover, so I don't even need, I honestly fine with having Specs. Then he nasty plots, I bring in Drud, this is still my counter. I just clicked Earthquake here, get a lot of chip. I could have probably predicted Crobat coming in this turn, and clicked Rock Tomb, but I just wanted to make sure, just in case he stayed in. Crobat just clicks Roost there, and then Crobat U-turns out on Mew again, but this gives me a free turn to Roost. Oh no, it gives me a free turn to set up Rocks, which is, yeah, it's doing a lot of chip to Rotom and to Charizard, which is useful. I think I get another turn later that I Roost. But he knocks my Specs off, which is I'm really sad about, because Scald only does 25, and Specs Scald would have 2-hit KO, which I was sad about. Then he parting shots out into Crobat again, sort of repeating this loop, but then I get a burn on the Crobat, which is huge for me. He defogs because he sort of has to for Rotom Charizard. He U-turns out, the burn means that he doesn't kill me, I get to actually click Roost here, Zard stays in. I predict that he's gonna roost, and I just click Psychic. Oh no, I click Stealth Rock again. Probably just because I know that Zard isn't a threat. And that Rotom still takes a lot from it, and it means that he has to bring Crobat into Defog again, which can give me more turns, possibly to set up Talonflame again, or do whatever. Then he clicks DD, I just click Psychic this turn, and then Psychic alongside Toxic just kills him. Then he brings in Toad again. I know this Toad isn't going to be able to kill Mew with anything, so I click Psychic, and then I see, he's dying to his next Life Orb, so I just sack Mew, I don't need it. Then I send Zapdos in on what I expected to be Crobat, which I was happy with. I just click Thunderbolt, it killed Persian, it killed Crobat, and I don't think he wanted to bring Rotom in. I can now go Drud finally, again. He tricks my AV away, which is fine because I still live every hit. He clicks Overheat, does 34, which is a lot, but then I'm able to just click Earthquake once, and then I just click Earthquake again. He's Power Gem. If he was possibly Play Rough last slot, it wouldn't have been an issue, but it would have meant that I would have won 3-0 instead of 4-0 as I bring in Talonflame against presumably Faircoat. But yeah, that was it. I think I played the match well. I think I definitely could have played the Sylveon better. I think, sure, probably Fire Punch wasn't a good bring against my team. Zapdos at +3 still lives Fire Punch. Fire Punch really isn't doing much of anything, to be honest, compared to Flare Blitz. But if he was Roost, DD, Fire Punch, Earthquake, he could have done a lot of work against his team, and my actual checks to Zard wouldn't have worked as well. I still could have brought Talonflame in and done a lot. I still could have brought Pex in if he wasn't +2 to click Toxic. I would have probably still won, but it just would have been really rough winning. And especially if he had probably realized, which, let's go back to that turn, I think it was about 10:30. Yeah. So from right now, he knows I have Raw Thunderbolt, and he knows I have Toxic Recover, and he knows the Mew set. Yeah, okay. So he knows that this is probably going to revenge him. He doesn't know that Zapdos has... Roost, possibly full Flare Blitz. He doesn't know about Schooled, though I mean Schooled and, whatever. Schooled Haze are pretty obvious. He does sort of know what I'm gonna do. So, if he'd looked completely at my team, he could have possibly... Well, I mean, this is if he had Fire Punch, but... Because he had Flare Blitz, because he needed Flare Blitz to do damage, it meant that no matter what, I could just sack Zapdos, and then Zapdos, I think, had enough HP to then, live, die to Flare Blitz, and then let Talonflame kill it. But he could have technically, got to +6 on, this, then roosted my Zapdos to death, and then, while risking Roar, of course, but he could have done so, or at least roosted a couple times, and then could have, Flare Blitzed to stay outside of Brave Bird range. I could have been banded for all he knows. Which I think would have been a good set to have run, because then it does minimum 73, which would have kept me in range for pretty much everything. But I decided to run Boots. I thought, oh yeah, Seismitoad Steelix is definitely going to come bring up rocks, just because I have Talonflame. So, he could have won here if he had predicted that, how I would have played the rest of the game, which is obviously very difficult to do, especially in the heat of a moment. I don't think how I played was wrong, I just think I could have played it more right. Because obviously, with him clicking Flare Blitz, that tells me, okay, I've won, basically. But if I didn't have that opportunity, if he just roosted on me, if maybe he was even a bulkier, DD Toxic set, like DD Toxic, Roost, Earthquake, or or just Flare Blitz. That should have been an issue. Maybe even Sub, but I'm glad he wasn't any of them. If he was Sub, that would have been a big issue. But, the thing is, Zard X, especially with Feeny along it, is kind of limited in what it needs to run. Like, you always want to run DD Roost, and then Flare Blitz Earthquake is sort of the last two. But at the same time, that Flare Blitz Earthquake could be, it could be Dragon Claw Outrage, it could be Fire Punch. There's a lot of moves it could be. It could even be Belly Drum if you're against a very slow team. So I'm just very glad that it was Flare Blitz, because from Flare Blitz, I was able to just threaten it out with Revenging, get Chip on Crobat, and then just go forward, get the Toxic, and from there I just sort of won the game. I think Austin played very well. I think even with his meme sets, with Tricked Feeny, and Tricked Rotom, which is less of a meme, but still, maybe not the most I think Tricked Rotom here was great. I think possibly Scarf would have been better, but I think Tricked Rotom was still really good. I think the idea of Specs Thunderbolt against possibly Pex would have been good. I think tricking his Specs away here was a really weird idea. I think he definitely should have went for Pex Chip right then and there. Let me actually bring up a count. I just had this spread. I think he was modest. Like, if he was modest 252, item, specs, like, Specs Thunderbolt just straight up killed there, if he was modest. Which would have been a huge issue. I mean, I would have got Drud in, of course. And Toxin here was pretty risky, actually. I didn't actually need it for Zard in the end. I didn't actually need Pex after this turn. But it still would have been very rough to have, because I just appreciate Pex a lot as just a pivot. Because I would have had to send Zapdos in, have different, not be able to get this Stool Burn to get Mew healed. I'd have to keep on sending Zapdos in, keep on roosting with Toxic going. Kind of a reason I would have liked Heal Bell over Mystical Fire, but, hindsight 2020. I think overall, yeah, he played the match well, I played the match well. We made mistakes, but it's the first match of the season, you're always going to make mistakes with new mons. Albeit I have used Mew Zapdos before, I play ladder, so I've used Pex before. I've played Gen 6 once, so I've used Talonflame and Sylveon before. So really, this was a very familiar team for me, and I think it was pretty new for Austin overall. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen him draft any of these mons before. So he's getting used to the team, I'm getting used to the new team. This was a great match, I'm very glad I got to play him early, because I sort of didn't want to see him, especially with Zard X, when he gets used to it. And overall, I'm very glad I won 4-0. It's a good victory. I'm glad Drud got 3 kills. I'm glad Drud just went in. I'm glad KJ told me the powers of AV alongside Mold Breaker for Rotoms, because, honestly, it's such a good Rotom check. It's great. Like, you'd think from looking at Drud, you just spam Glare and Stealth Rock. But surprisingly, its offensively is great. It has 120 attack. It's got good enough special attack for doing stuff like Turret and Kangaroo with Heat Wave. It's overall just a solid mon, and I'm really glad I picked up at tier 4, because I think it's a very solid tier 4, aside from being a dragon. I think if it was a different type, it would still be good. It wouldn't be as good, like, being a dragon is great for it, of course. But I think even if it was like maybe fire or whatever, I still think it would be great. Anyway, that was it. I think I've said all I need to, so bye.